Hello, this is Dr. Alex from Supporting Child Caregivers, and I want to talk to you about picky eaters. The American Academy of Pediatrics considers picky eating to be a normal developmental stage in toddlers. It's a behavior that seems to be motivated by a fear of new foods. So let's begin by focusing on avoiding picky eating by supporting healthy eating in toddlers. First of all, experts recommend avoiding force feeding, offering a variety of foods, keeping meals enjoyable, and consistently reintroducing refused foods. Most nutritionists suggest that parents create a family mealtime without access to screens, and that parents serve one meal for the whole family instead of preparing special foods for children who are picky. To soften the expectation to try all the foods, parents can try to include at least one food that the picky eater likes, but to continue to serve balanced meals whether the child eats all the foods or not. All experts recommend against pressuring the child to eat, and against punishing them for not eating, and also not bribing children. Some experts even recommend against withholding dessert if the child doesn't eat the rest of their meal. They suggest that this enhances the preference for desserts, but as a person with a sweet tooth, I'm not sure I agree with that idea. Anyway, nutritionists propose that you limit snacks, and because a child rejects a food, that's not a reason to stop serving it, but instead just serve it in small portions. Sometimes it takes multiple tries before a food becomes familiar enough for a child to get to like it. It's a good idea to offer toddlers a variety of foods, including high-protein foods like meat, fish, and legumes, and to remember to offer new foods in small amounts to avoid wasting it. Also, when feeding toddlers, you can offer the food in small pieces so that they can try to feed themselves, but watch out that the pieces are small enough to avoid their choking on them. Two more suggestions from nutritionists for toddlers. Create food bridges by serving foods that are new at the same time as familiar foods that share the same texture and color. And pair tastes that toddlers prefer, such as sweet and salty, with new foods that are sour and bitter, but are packed with nutrients, such as bitter foods like kale and broccoli or Brussels sprouts can be paired with grated cheese, which is salty, and toddlers might like it better. Now here is another important point. Some children have sensitivities, special sensitivities, and have an extreme aversive reaction to the tastes and textures of certain foods. These sensitivities are real, and they may affect the child's response to a wide variety of healthy foods and can even interfere with the child's gaining weight. If parents have access to an occupational therapist with expertise in treating sensory perceptual sensitivities, that professional may be able to help. If not, pediatricians can guide parents in the care of these children. Some of the same techniques that I mentioned above can be used, such as offering small portions of healthy foods that the child rejects alongside with foods that the child prefers, and encouraging the child to try the rejected food, but not pressuring them to eat it. And above all, avoiding struggles over food. Now I need to say more about parents. The basic tasks of a parent are to protect, nurture, and enjoy their child. If the child does not eat, or if the child has difficulty eating a healthy diet, that strikes at the heart of a parent. The parent worries that the child will not grow, or even that an infant may not survive. This, of course, makes the parents terribly anxious. And in a vicious cycle, the parent's anxiety frequently makes it harder for the child to eat. The parent's anxiety may cause the parent to push the child to eat, even if they know that such pressure is not recommended. And even if they do not overtly behave in such a controlling way towards their child, the parent's anxiety may infect the atmosphere of the dinner table. So who likes to eat when there's so much tension in the air? What can you do about this? Well, blanket statements such as making dinner an enjoyable time are not very helpful if they don't tell you how to do that. The worst thing you can tell a parent is not to be anxious. It makes the parent feel blamed. Of course, parents would stop being anxious if they believed that their child is not in danger. The best way to help a parent stop being anxious is to make a relationship with the parent and empathize with the parent and validate their feelings while not agreeing with all of them. That is, tell the parent that you can appreciate why they are so upset or worried when their child doesn't eat, while not agreeing with the parent's extreme fears. And then letting the parent know that they're not alone, that you will work with them until things get better. It's feeling alone with the awesome responsibility of keeping your child alive that makes parents frantic. When professionals or community health workers or family or friends, literally or figuratively, put their arm around the parent and say, "I am here, we will get through this together," that parents can feel support, not alone, and the atmosphere changes. This is not a magic solution to a chronic problem, but it is a beginning. Once I had the good fortune to work with a lovely family from South Sudan that had emigrated to the U.S. The father in the family was a lost boy who had to leave home and flee through the forest with a small group of other boys when enemies set fire to his village. They had nothing to eat but what they could find in the forest, like berries, bark of trees, and his best friend died of starvation. The mother in the family was the sister of a lost boy, and she had also survived extreme hardship. When the family came to the U.S., they did well, and then the family had their first child, a little boy. But the little boy had a hard time eating. He was diagnosed at a famous children's hospital as failure to thrive, which is really kind of a terrible diagnosis. And the doctors told the parents not to be so anxious, that their anxiety was contributing to their child's eating disorder. Do you imagine that the doctors even bothered to learn about the parents' history in South Sudan? The story has a happy ending because when I recognized how much the parents valued education and was able to support him attending an excellent preschool, there in a comfortable and naturally enjoyable atmosphere with other children, the little boy began to eat. And when the parents saw that he was beginning to thrive, their anxiety went away, or at least got better, and the home atmosphere became much more relaxed as well. The boy grew into a tall, handsome South Sudanese American, just like his parents. So the moral of this story is to avoid blaming parents and instead join with them to help everyone feel safe, psychologically safe, and then real problem solving can begin. By the way, many of the most accomplished people that I know, guests on my podcast, were picky eaters when they were young children. You can hear more about these people, these wonderful guests, in the Kids and Food episode series in the Supporting Child Caregivers podcast. Check it out. Thank you.